Flying privately is great. It's a pleasure to avoid the hassles of the airlines and the security lines and the check-in lines in crowded terminals. But jet card programs and flying privately also have high demand dates. And when you join a jet card or membership program, they have what's called peak or high demand days. And those are essentially different policies and rules that govern your flying on those peak or high demand days. And it's an important aspect of joining, or because of all the changes taking place with jet cards today, renewing your program. So I'm going to talk to you about 4 key factors that you should study regarding peak and high demand days before you renew with your current provider or join a new program, and especially if you're just getting started with flying privately. I'm Doug Gollan. I'm founder and editor of Private Jet Card Comparisons. We're a buyer's guide helping consumers find the best private aviation solutions for their unique flying needs. And thank you for joining me today on our YouTube channel. When you join a jet card or membership program, particularly programs that have fixed or capped hourly rates, that's where you get a contracted price so you know how much you're going to pay on an hourly basis when you sign up for the program. These memberships, these jet cards, have what they call peak days or high demand days. And the rules on those peak and high demand days are different than the rules that you experience when you're flying on just regular days. So I want to go through 4 key differences that impact how you're flying, the rules that you'll have to abide by, and how they'll impact you on these peak days. So what's the first element to be cognizant of in terms of peak day policies and rules? Well, that's surcharges. And so that's a factor that a lot of people focus on. I actually don't think it's the most important factor, but it is a factor because flying privately isn't cheap to begin with. And you'll see surcharges. They could be anywhere from 5 or 10, 20%, up to some programs have surcharges of 100%. So you're essentially paying double. Other programs don't have any surcharges on peak days. And then there are programs that on peak days, they price your trips dynamically, which is like calling up a charter broker. So it's going to depend on where you're flying, how far in advance that you're going to book. So the pricing is going to vary dramatically for your fixed or capped contracted rate. So surcharges are something to definitely take a look at when you're studying the peak days. What's next? And I think this is much more important perhaps than just the surcharges, and that's the ability of the programs to shift departure, either accelerate your departure or delay your departure. And so it's always been standard that on peak days or high demand days, providers could move your departure by plus or minus 3 hours. And so that means if you booked on a peak day a 5 p.m. departure, they could call you up the day before and tell you you have to leave at 3 p.m. or 8 p.m. So they could shift it 3 hours earlier or 3 hours later. One of the things that's changed since last year is providers have been increasing that window. So now I'm seeing more programs, and we have it in our database, where the window, instead of being plus or minus 3 hours, is 6 hours. So instead of 5 p.m., anywhere from 11 a.m. to 11 p.m. And certainly if you're using your jet card for business, that can have a significant impact. Or, if you've scheduled your flights so that you can leave after the kids get out of school, or even just if you want to get a last round of golf or run on the slopes, to now be able to be told that you have to leave at 11 a.m. instead of 5 p.m. In some way defeats a little bit of the benefit of flying privately. The other element is where typically they had to advise you the day before. There are now some programs where they can actually tell you that they're accelerating or delaying your flight on the morning of departure. So shifting departure times, flexible departure times is what they will often refer to it in the contract as something to pay attention to. What's next? Longer call-outs. So one of the benefits of jet cards with guaranteed availability and the fixed or the capped rates is you can book a flight, 24, 48, 96 hours before departure. So, it's going to be rainy where you are. Let's go someplace with good weather for the weekend, call up and book. And so typically the call out or the lead time to book your departure, in the past it was usually about 24 to 48 hours longer on peak days. So if you had a 24-hour call out for non-peak, it might be 48 or 72 hours. Now that window is getting longer. So there are more programs where it's 7 days in advance you have to book, and that still may not be an issue. There's one program where it's actually 45 days in advance if you want to book on the peak days. And so if you start to think that there are more peak days than ever, instead of 30 days, 70 peak days, these longer booking windows are going to impact more of the potential days you're going to be flying, especially if you're not flexible to shift away from flying on peak days, which is what I recommend. I recommend trying to avoid flying on peak days if at all possible. And then with call-outs, if you're traveling internationally, if your program might have had a 48 or 72-hour call-out, you might find that it's now 10 days in advance to book internationally. So the call-outs are another thing, another element of peak day policies that you're going to want to take a look at, because chances are it's going to be significantly different than the normal policy that you're probably looking at when you're looking at the brochures. And again, this is all of everything that I'm talking about. We track and update in the private jet card comparisons database. We have over 40,000 data points, over 65 variables that impact which programs are the best fit for you. And so that's all in our spreadsheet. What else do you have to be concerned about? Longer lead times to cancel. And so, again, one of the nice things about the jet cards and memberships, 24 or 48 hours to book. A lot of them, it's the same 24, 48, 96 hours. You can cancel or change without penalty. So that's a lot different than on-demand charter. It gives you more flexibility. You book your flights if something changes a week before. As long as you change or you cancel before the deadline, there's no penalty. With peak days, those periods are getting longer. So what used to be an extra 24 or 48 hours to cancel, in some cases it's now a week to 2 weeks. And the other rule change that I'm seeing, and this is one of the reasons you need to read the fine print even if you're renewing your contract, is I'm seeing companies that no longer allow you to cancel peak day reservations. So once you make them, you're locked in. That's a lot like it is with on-demand charter. But things happen, kids get sick, something happens and you need to change your plans. So again, one of the themes of what I'm talking about is different rule set for peak days than non-peak days. And the easiest way to avoid peak days is to find programs where you're not going to have to fly on peak days. But if you are going to need to fly on peak days, it's important to understand the rules of those programs. Those are 4 key changes. There are some other things to think about. Not all programs allow you to upgrade a larger size of aircraft on peak days, which could be important because peak days tend to be around holiday periods, so that might be when you have more people going with you. Something to consider. Some programs guarantee a fewer number of seats, so if they typically guarantee 8 seats on a mid-sized jet on peak days, it might only be 7. So I always say that jet cards are a devil in the details type purchase. Peak days are certainly lots of details. It's something that we try and help subscribers figure out so that they match up, or they're talking to the providers with the programs and the rules, the policies that best fit their flying needs. But the brochures all have the pictures of the happy little kids and the puppies. They're light on the details. The contract is got the rules that govern how you're going to spend your money. The devil is in the details. By being an educated buyer, you're going to join the right program, and you're going to save yourself some disappointment and heartache later. So that's peak days. It's something that you need to take a look at before you sign the contract, before you wire the money, so you know the rules that you're going to fly under. With some programs having 70, 90, 100 peak days, that's essentially 2 or 3 months worth of days when there's a different rule set. So it's something more than ever that you need to pay attention to. Thanks for watching. If you like this video, please hit the like button and please subscribe. Also, please visit privatejetcardcomparisons.com, sign up for our free e-newsletter, and learn more about how we can help you find the right private aviation solution for your unique flying needs.